Welcome to The Rest is Giant Robots, a conversation through the careers of writer Simon Furman and artist Andrew Wildman. Recollections and revelations about the highs and the lows as creatives in comics, books, games, film and TV. Hello and welcome to The Rest is Giant Robots. My name's Andrew Wildman.
And my name's Simon Furman, and you completely forgot to mention it's episode 51.
And it's episode 51.
And
this time we're going to kind of follow on our chronology of our combined history.
That's easy for you to say.
Oh my God, this is not going well already, is
it? Yeah, just so everyone knows, this is being recorded somewhat early in the morning, isn't it? Because we've both got busy days.
Because you got a busy day. Well, I got a busy day, but you always seem to be running off somewhere. I don't know. Where are you going this time?
Oh, actually, we're just meeting some friends. It's actually not work for a change. I know.
I didn't know you had a life, Simon. I thought you were just constantly working.
No, well, it does seem like that sometimes these days. But this is something we arranged ages ago and just catching up with some old friends in one of those sort of halfway house meetings.
Right. Is that like a safe house?
Well, no, it's that thing now. There's actually a website for it. Calculate the distance, calculate what's halfway between here and wherever your friends live, and then it comes up with this area, and you say, oh, well, let's meet there. And it sort of means everybody's journey time is the same.
Wow. Well, rather than just looking at a map and kind of saying, what about here? What about there?
Yeah, I suppose
there's a whole app for it.
It's a little more precise.
We met some friends that just while we're on that, which is completely nothing to do with anything. While we're on that, we met up with some friends, and it was a cousin of my wife's, and a recently discovered other cousin that came up through ancestry, which was amazing for Leslie, because Leslie's father was one of 12. So obviously there's quite a span of ages in that, and nobody knows much about all the older ones. And there was a cousin that came out of the woodwork, which is great. I met her a couple of years ago. Anyway, so we went meeting up with them, and it turned out we should have had that app or whatever it is, because it turned out that the new cousin and Leslie's sister and us, who were all coming from, like, one from Cambridgeshire, us from Oxfordshire, and new cousin from Salisbury, were all travelling quite a distance to the person that actually arranged where we would meet, who was about 2 miles away from where we were meeting. For the rest of it was like an hour and a half journey.
Yeah, that's why it's a fair system. You just find the midpoint.
Yeah, very good. Anyway,
what are we going to be talking about? We're going to pick up our chronological trawl through our careers where we left off, which was lockdown.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at early 2021 and through 2021, really, as we came out of lockdown, and things like furlough schemes became a distant memory, and we thought, oh, we're going to have to work for a living.
It's not that we didn't want to work for a living, it's that we didn't have any work.
No, I mean, it was, and I can't tell you how grateful I was for those furlough payments during 2020, because work, although there was work, it wasn't enough. So
it wasn't just about, like, for me at the time, it wasn't just about putting food on the table. It's the fact that I was renting a studio in Chipping Norton, and that ain't cheap.
No, indeed. Everything rolled on, and it was definitely a difficult time. But the furlough payments really sort of got us and probably out loads of freelancers through that period.
Yeah. The music industry had a lot of problems in that, especially crew for bands and everything, because they're so on and off that when there was no work going on because of COVID, they were just not earning any money at all.
Mm.
And I know that various kind of bodies and some bands actually did fundraising things purely to be able to, get the crew some money, some income.
Y-
So
Yeah,
a lot of creatives, generally suffered during that time.
yeah, and being freelance was not easy at that point because there was no company to support you or keep paying you or work from home. It just, yeah, it was very difficult for a lot of people that time.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
was.
interestingly, when I look back, a lot of the stuff I was working on at the start of 2021 was still sort of lockdown indulgence stuff a little bit, or certainly more pet projects than paying gigs.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So one of
Okay.
the first things I was working on was because Shift, the anthology comic, was doing To the Death in serialized form.
Oh yeah,
Adrian, who sort of guides the whole thing, was keen to do a Shift summer or winter special, I forget, a kind of bumper standalone issue.
yeah.
And he asked me if I would come up with some story for it. And I suggested, I think it was me who suggested, I'm going to say it was anyway, that
You might as
I
well.
that I do a series of interconnected stories that are all to the death based,
Oh yeah,
but it doesn't become apparent it's to the death until the final part, or the final two parts, really, because there's a sort of reveal at the end of part four that makes everyone, we hoped, go, oh, it's to the death. So yeah, I just came up with some standalone stories that were disguised to the death stories, or folded into that universe we created.
right. I'm just
And
going to pause you a minute here, Simon. Are you
mm,
getting any peaks on your audio?
yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
looks all good.
Okay, I'm not getting anything there. Okay, that's fine
Okay.
then.
Yeah, no, it's all saying I'm talking, so it should be fine.
Okay, that's all right. Carry on. I can edit that out. That's fine.
Yeah. So these stories all had to be standalone. They were all going to be drawn by different artists, and the final part drawn by Jeff Senior. So it was completely to the death at that point. And so it was interesting. It was a good puzzle to have, how to come up with 4 to 5 self-contained stories that actually link up in some way and all form a 5-part sequel to the death, which we'd never really planned to do a sequel to, but we
Yeah,
thought, why the hell not? And so the survivors, big spoiler, of the original series
yeah.
come back into that story in part 5.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a fun testing exercise. And the artists, it was great because one of the parts was drawn by Barry Kitson,
Oh
who
yeah,
I
good.
who I hadn't worked with since we did an Alpha flight backup in the early 90s. So it
Mm,
was lovely to work with Barry again and see his art coming in. And the other 3 parts that weren't Jeff were drawn by newer artists on the block. So that took a little bit of tending in terms of an editorial standpoint,
yeah,
of seeing the art come in and saying, I think we need to look at the flow of that page, and I don't think we've quite got the balance right on that page. But it was great. And then Jeff was doing part 5, which was wonderful to behold as well.
yeah. And so is that collected like all together, or is it just it's only in bits?
Well, it was in all 5 bits appeared in the same summer or winter special, Shift special, but they
Right.
weren't together. They were sort of paced out through the anthology. It was quite a big, chunky book, and there
Yeah.
were other short stories unconnected. by other
Yeah.
creators.
Okay.
But the whole thing was when you got to the final one, you went, oh, okay, they're all connected. But
Yeah.
yes, then it all got put into a to the death one shot called Rex and Rule, which is still
Okay.
available on Amazon.
Hmm.
So you can still pick up a copy of Rex and Rule.
Something I'm really shockingly not very good at is putting links in the show notes. I mean, we need to get onto that.
Yes, yeah, we
make sure,
should.
make sure we get links in the show notes. So
But
we'll try and find that. Yeah.
if you search for To the Death Rex REX and Rule RULE, you'll find it. It's just on an Amazon KDP print to order
Okay.
sort of
Nice.
system.
Yeah. When
So
you
what about
do when you do Amazon KDP, just as a kind of a little sidebar here about
mm,
which kind of affects our sort of self-published work, whatever. When you do KDP stuff, do you do it in other territories as well, or just
yes.
UK?
No,
Yeah,
it's worldwide.
yeah,
Or English language worldwide anyway. I think
yeah,
if you're going to try and sell in France, you would need to have a translated version or something. So, but yeah, effectively, you can buy it through Amazon Australia, Amazon America, anywhere.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
it's a really good system that, if anyone's listening to this stateside or down under, you can pick up a copy really easily.
Yeah, now the World Cup's out of the way, you need something to do, so you can get a
Yeah.
copy of that and read it.
Oh, wasn't the World Cup final disappointing? Dear oh dear.
Well,
I've
there is
never
this whole thing about the France England match has actually been kind of labeled, deemed by the fans as the people's final.
Yeah. Wow, 10 goals, I mean that was how it should have been. It should have been, you know, two teams going for it, but it was just, I found it with a lot of the games this World Cup. They were so careful, cagey, just
Yeah,
passy, keep possession.
yeah.
That's a very technical football term, by the way. Passy,
Parsy, Parsy.
keep. But
It's a bit like the bit where they always go kick it back to the goalkeeper, and a
oh
friend of mine who's not into football, he calls that goesy backwards.
yeah, yes, and then 22 minutes of this in, they all have a little break, and I was just like, oh god, this is dull. But I just thought the final was, the dullest of the dull, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean it had its moments, but yeah, it's a shame because could have been amazing. And then all the stuff that kind of kicked off around it and afterwards and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what made I mean, the England France game, I mean, the pressure was off. So they kind of relaxed
Mm,
into it. But just generally, the bonhomie, afterwards, the way that everyone was just loving it,
mm,
I thought it was great. That was a celebration of football.
yeah,
So
it
it
was.
was almost as an exhibition match and a demonstration of how it can be. I thought it was wonderful.
Yes, agreed. So
Mm.
going back to our chronology, see, I'm having
Yeah.
trouble with it now.
Almost
Um,
as easy for you to say.
yes. Um, Andrew, what were you doing as
What on
we
earth was
sort
I
of
doing? I don't know.
approach the end of lockdown?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I was mostly doing during that time, because there wasn't much production stuff going on, was I was working on oxygen. I mean, I was ploughing through oxygen, having found a kind of time effective way of actually doing it by laying it all out in Storyboarder, the storyboarding software I do, and then importing that into Photoshop, tidying it up, coloring it, all that kind of stuff. Although JP Bove did color some of it for me, in the end I took over because I, especially when I got to, I think it was number 4, chapter 4, I was kind of making too. I felt like I was going to be making too many demands on him in terms of what I wanted because of the environment. So I thought I need to do it myself. I've got the
Yeah,
time, for goodness sake, so I'll
yeah.
do it myself. Um, so I did, but so I was working on that a lot, and I when I was looking through how kind of post lockdown worked out for me, um, I finished and launched the Kickstarter, and that completed sort of late 2023. So it took a little while, but as a project, it was nice to be able to get through it all in one chunk. I don't know whether anybody heard the dog just bark.
Well, I certainly did. It made me jump.
Ah! Who knows? What's the matter with you then? Anyway, but yeah, so when I finally did start to get some work, and obviously things started to open up, but it wasn't really until 2022 that many things started to happen for me. So, I mean, I had a couple of conventions in 2022, so things were very definitely post-COVID then. So there was TFCon in Toronto in, I think it was April 2022, which was amazing. And Vince was there, so Vince DeCola, who's going to be at TF Nation. So that was nice to hang out with Vince again. We were comparing hearing problems.
Excellent. Yeah, it's what we do these days, isn't it?
He absolutely insisted that he didn't need and wasn't going to have hearing aids, because I wear hearing aids now.
Okay.
It's not because I'm going deaf as such. It's purely because people of a certain age, especially people like me who ride motorbikes and play drums,
yeah,
have slightly abused their hearing, I guess. And so you just lose some clarity at the top end. Anyway, so that was great. Also in 2022, Thought Bubble. I went to Thought Bubble. I can only assume that obviously that they didn't have them during lockdown, so they reopened for that. And I had the pleasure of meeting Kim Young-ji, the incredible artist who sadly passed away a few years ago. And I bought one of his books, and he did a sketch in it for me. That was incredible, just to see him work, stand over him and watch him working. Was just amazing. Other things that came up, just kind of bits and pieces that came up in those couple of years post lockdown. That's when we did the Transformers stamps, I think.
Yes,
that was something that came up.
That would have been soon. Yeah, after that.
Yeah.
I can't remember which TF Nation it was when they launched. Maybe it was 2022.
Yeah, maybe.
Could have been.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But that was completely out of the blue. And that was, I mean, in many ways, for not just generally for my career as an artist, as a comics artist, but certainly in terms of Transformers output, that I mean, that tops everything really for me to have my work end up on a stamp. It's like, what? You're kidding?
Yeah, it was really nice. And I mean, as we talk about often with Transformers, you sort of sometimes, all of us struggle to stay relevant to what's to the audience, what's coming out, and these little bits and pieces like the stamps, great, because they kind of literally do give your own relevancy a nice big rubber stamp as well, don't they? That you've got new product coming out and new things to announce.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I only really came about because the person who commissions special stamps at Royal Mail is a massive Transformers fan, so he'd always wanted to do it. But the thing about special stamps is that they have to be relevant to the UK. There has to be something that makes it relevant. They can't just put any old, they can't put whatever Taylor Swift on it. I'm sure they'll find a way, but they have to find an angle that makes it UK relevant. And so his angle was that British creatives had been very relevant in the fact that Transformers has continued to be be out there and be part of popular culture, and he's quite right. So that was a joy to be asked to do that. The other thing that was happening during lockdown, or towards the end of lockdown, was the filming of the first Luther movie. So we were having to, I've mentioned that on previous episodes, the last TV stuff that I was doing, and then certainly with Luther, I could do some of that storyboarding remotely, and have Zoom calls with Jamie. But when they started filming, there were all sorts of protocols they had to go through and wear masks and all that kind of thing. Anyway, that eventually all got done. So February 2023, they had the cast and crew screening at BAFTA in London,
Mm,
which was amazing to go and sit in the BAFTA screening room and see the movie. So that was wonderful little thing that came up.
brilliant.
So other than those little bits and pieces, um, work did start to pick up a bit in 2022 and then into 2023.
Yeah,
And I was doing quite a lot of animation stuff. I don't do much animation stuff then, so that was the thing that kind of stood out for me. That
yeah,
kind of period of time where I was doing a lot of work for a company called Moonbug, who have a lot of content on YouTube. That's kind of their channel. They don't have much on terrestrial TV or streaming TV, but
right.
they have a ton of stuff on YouTube, and it gets like millions of hits. It's crazy. It really is one of those things where short preschool animated shows are very easy to just have on repeat for people to have as a cheap childminder in a way.
Yeah,
um, so I did a little baby bum, as we've laughed about before.
yes,
I still
yeah.
don't know why it was ever called that. Gecko's Garage, Arpo, and one called Morphle, and they were a lot of fun. A lot of fun. A
Mm,
lot of work, but a lot of fun.
great.
Um, yeah, I mean there was a lot of live action stuff, but What about yourself? What else?
Yeah, I mean, I had, thankfully, as we came out of lockdown, I picked up a couple of bigger scale job. In fact, I think one of them started during lockdown, and that was the games company who were producing. It's not them anymore, but the games company who produced Transformers: Earth Wars
Yeah,
were called Space Ape, and they were coming up to their 10th anniversary as a company.
yeah,
And interestingly, this year we're coming up to this is the 10th anniversary of Earth Wars itself, but this was Space Ape as a whole, a company who had sort of, started out as a small company and grown and grown. And
mm,
they contacted me and said, we would like to do a mostly internal 10th year anniversary celebration of Space Ape. So
yeah,
going through all their games more or less chronologically, chapter by chapter.
yeah,
And that was, and they wanted me to do the interviews and compile the book. And I
mm,
just said, okay, yeah, because I hadn't got much else on at that time. And it turned out to be a big job. I mean, because you have this interview over a Zoom call or something, or whatever medium, Teams, and then you've got to dismantle that and turn it into a book chapter.
right,
And often these were multiple people in the same meeting talking about their roles in, I don't know, rival kingdoms, or was it Clash of Clans? Anyway, one of those ones, and different games they'd produced.
yeah,
And that was it. And obviously there was a chapter on Earth Wars as well. But it's not really, my good friend Mark Salisbury, who works with me on the film stuff. He's a film journalist, so he's used to just recording interviews and then transcribing and turning it into a readable chapter.
right,
But this was kind of new for me. I hadn't done a lot of it outside of um, working as editor on the writers on comic script writing, writers on comic art books. So
yeah,
it was flexing a bit of a new muscle. It involved a lot of long teams or whatever calls with various creatives at Space Ape, and that, but did it and produced the book. And it's one of those strange things that probably no one. I've got a copy, but no one outside of Space Ape probably
Yeah.
will ever see. It's just happened to be one of those. I don't think my name's actually even on it. It was
What? That's
just,
outrageous.
well, I mean, but it wasn't a commercial thing. It was
No.
just an in-house project. My
Yeah.
name's in it in terms of the work I did on Earth Wars and another game called Fastlane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a strange one, but a good one, and it did keep me ticking over because lockdown was the perfect time to get a bunch of people who otherwise would be very, very busy on a
Yeah.
call to talk about past stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So,
much so.
so yeah, that was going on, and also I started either just at the end of lockdown and coming out of lockdown, working for a games company called Splash Damage,
Right.
who had picked up a Transformers game license. I mean, it had various names: Reactivate, Rise. It didn't really settle on a name. It did a lot of what they call in the games industry pivoting in terms of the content. But they
Mm.
brought me on board as a creative advisor, story developer on it. And that sort of, I thought this would just be a kind of a few sessions, a bit of work, and that's it. But I sort of joined the team,
Yeah.
and that lasted, even though the game sadly never came out, that lasted for a good year and a half, maybe even 2 years,
Yeah.
that body of work all sort of disappeared into the ether now, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But that
That's,
that
I mean,
that
that happens in games though. In the games industry, my kind of time that I spent in it, I was amazed how much time and money can be spent on developing stuff,
mm,
and then it goes absolutely nowhere.
no. I mean, I don't know whether it was then or after that, but I worked on a game um, with a guy called Chris White, who was originally with Space 8 but had moved to another company, and he
Yeah.
brought me on board. And it was loosely called Asteroid Farm, and it was going to be a VR game, and you
Yeah.
were just farming your biodome on an asteroid, and you had
Mm.
to navigate through your daily life on this farm
Yeah.
with hazards and occasional spacewalks and things. I loved it. I thought it was, honestly, I loved working on that game, and I really thought it had something. And I'm not a gamer, but I would have happily played that game, and that never happened either. So that's a real shame.
That's, I mean, that's very interesting though, the way that you say that. So, I mean, a lot of that work has already been done. So I presume stuff like that is kept in somebody's back pocket somewhere, potentially for release later.
Mm,
But the very fact that you say, um, I'm not a gamer, but I would have happily played that game. Well, there's a new market I mean, instantly for them, isn't there?
mm.
Non-gamers, but it has an appeal.
And
So you would think that, they'd take a look at that in a way.
yeah, and I liked it because it wasn't a shoot 'em up thing. There were
Yeah,
hazards, especially if you went out for a spacewalk, but they weren't aliens shooting at you. There was an overarching mystery behind it that you had to puzzle out,
yeah,
in the course of these journeys out of your little biodome. But largely I liked it because it was low impact, and you had to use your brain a bit to sort of figure out. It was like you had to work out how much crop you needed for yourself, how much you could take to market and sell, how much you could barter for other things you needed. I just loved it.
so
Like
you're
I say,
basically Bruce Dern in Silent Running.
yeah, exactly that kind of thing. I really liked it, and yeah, shame. And I always feel sad when things I've worked on and invested, my sort of creative energies into never
Yeah,
happen, because that just feels lost then.
it's and that is an interesting thing, isn't it? So as a creative, when you are creating worlds, you don't just create those worlds. You effectively, while you're creating them, you kind of live in them, don't you? I
Yeah,
mean, and then when that doesn't actually become real in the world, there's kind of like a sense of loss.
yeah. and its
Jesus.
very nature of this asteroid farm concept was immersive, so
Yeah.
I did start to feel quite, oh, you know I'm invested in this in a way that's not just your normal, here's a script, here's a something. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a shame, but yeah, that didn't happen, but the 10-year book did, so that was fun to do. And and like I say, and rise, reactivate, whatever it would have been, went through so many iterations of what this game was going to be. And it was a
Yeah.
big scale game as well. It was a sort of proper console level game.
Yeah.
Um, but again, sort of 2 years worth of work, and it's sort of up there in the ether,
Yeah.
and will
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
never surface, because that stuff is, the creative work is the property of Splash Damage, and Transformers is the license of Hasbro. So
Yeah.
that stuff will remain out there, which is a shame. But maybe someday I can talk about some of the concepts that we chewed over, even if they were the discarded one. Mind you, they're all discarded.
Yeah. Yeah, there must be some kind of statute of limitations on that, I guess. I don't know, before
I
you can
suppose so. I don't know. I'm never
repurpose
sure.
repurpose some of those ideas. Yeah, who knows?
And what else did I have? Well, I had a couple of comics things going on, and and I was doing Leopard from Lime Street for Monster Fun,
Oh yeah.
which was great fun. Loved doing that, and that had started, I think, probably around lockdown into post lockdown. And the other thing was Astrobots Volume 2,
Hmm.
uh, which I don't think at this stage, I'm pretty sure at this stage, Volume 1 had even come out, but the owners of Astrobots were really keen to get another story arc in the can, as it were, and that was also ticking along as well, which I really enjoyed. I mean, the first two now have come out of Astrobots, but
Yeah.
there is a 3 and a 4 that exist as scripts, and I think in case of 3, art. So I'm hopeful that they also will see print.
Yeah. 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 You never know, do you? I mean, once the work's done, it's like, yeah, why not? It should.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will depend on, obviously, the people who own Astrobots need a publisher to bring it out. So
Yeah.
that has been coming out through one publisher, but it will, I suppose it depends how well it's sold for them, etc., whether
Yeah.
they want to do volume 3 and 4, but they exist. And so I genuinely hope we can get to continue that story, the Astrobot story, and maybe even beyond that.
Yeah. So who was the publisher on 1 and 2 then?
Oh, cracky! Now that's thrown me, because I was just trying to think. I keep coming up with Legendary, but that's Skull Island, and um, I'm going to have to look it up now.
Oh no, because I
I
mean,
know.
if they're not going to publish it, then obviously there are other ways to do that, aren't they? You know, if the people who own the property, they can always look at other ways. They can either, you know, talk to other publishers or essentially publish it themselves. I mean, it's not difficult to set up a publishing company, and then it's just all down to the marketing.
Yeah, I
But it's
suppose that's
already
the.
had some traction with two
Yeah,
releases.
I
It
mean, I
wouldn't be
think
hard to.
the toys do well enough. It's yeah. Now see, now I'm looking this up. Massive.
Massive. Mm.
It's funny. It's not a name that trips off my memory, my somewhat aging memory. But yes, Massive have done volumes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So my hope is that they continue with volume 3 and volume
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Um, One of the things, and slightly off topic,
Mm.
that we can maybe talk about next time is what's going to be announced by the Battersea Power Station Transformers store in
Yeah.
about a few days' time, and then debut at TF Nation.
Hmm.
because as we've alluded to, Andrew and I have actually done some comic stuff together, uh, and uh, and that is going to be coming out in something we can't talk about yet because it hasn't been announced, but that we can almost, I mean, there was a lot around that, so we can maybe talk a bit about that next time, because then by then the announcements will have been made and TF Nation will have probably come and gone.
Yeah. Well, by the time this episode comes out, that'll have.
That's true, yes. We could
So
talk about
we're
it, but
already in the future, Simon.
yes, yeah, it's confusing.
When was
Well,
TF? I mean, compared to this, when was TF Nation? It was
yeah,
a couple of weeks
well,
ago at least.
well, maybe we can just say that Andrew and I have actually drawn new Transformers material together and leave
Yeah,
it at
in
that for the
collaboration with
moment.
some other artists. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, amazing roster of artists, in fact. But
Mm.
yeah, that we will talk about that in depth more, because there's quite a lot to talk about behind that, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was something you've been involved with, obviously, long before me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there'll be all sorts of interesting stuff that you can, because it's will be out slash is out already in the
Mm.
future world that we're currently living in.
Yes,
Yeah, it's,
but
it's too
in
confusing. It's
but
more
in the
confusing than lockdown.
yes, but in the past where we're talking about this on the 25th of this month that we've now passed, you will be able to see the announcement from the Battersea Power Station. So it messes with your head, doesn't it?
I have no idea what day it is now.
I'm sure I've missed a few deadlines since we started this podcast.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Right.
No, it'd be good to talk about that next time. Yeah,
Yes.
because it's quite a thing. Yeah, my only other, just to kind of rattle
Mm,
through a few other things that I did. I think I've mentioned. Well, I mentioned most of the animation stuff, and I mentioned Oxygen and a couple of conventions. But in terms of live action, some interesting shows popped up when I looked back through my email. So, an Apple TV show called Surface.
hmm
I think it was season 2. I did some work on that. Great kind of thriller, would you call it? Thriller show
hmm
starring, and I never know how to pronounce this, Gugu Mbatha Raw, she's great actress.
mm,
Um, and also did some work with Jamie Payne, who I work with a lot, who I've worked with
yeah.
on Luther, etc., etc., etc. He had back in the day done worked on Outlander, and then there was a prequel to Outlander that went into production called Blood of My Blood, set in the First World War. So I did some work on that. Um, I did some work on Gangs of London,
Oh yeah.
TV series called Gangs of London with
Mm,
um, Farron Blackburn, and with two directors. Farron Blackburn, who's the director that I my first ever live action storyboarding work was with Farron Blackburn on
was that the
The Fades,
Fades?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then on Doctor Who. Anyway, Farron got back in touch and wanted me to work on an episode of Gangs of London with him, which was great. And there was another director. Sometimes that happens if you work on a show with one director, because they'll have multiple directors working over the series. Not all series do that. Some Slow Horses has one director doing the whole series,
Yeah.
as do some other shows. But the most common thing is they have various directors. And another director on that was Tessa Hoff. She's
hmm
done a lot of stuff in the past, so I worked with her briefly on Gangs of London. Um, but one of the big things, which was an animation project, which stood out for me, that was a 2023 thing. I was contacted by Lighthouse Studios in Ireland. Um, I think Lighthouse Studios did. I can't remember. Anyway, great little animation studio in London, and a lady by the name of Cleaner Lyons, who I had met before on another project and worked with. She got in touch with me and wanted me to storyboard a short animation project. It was an internal project, so it wasn't commissioned by an outside company. It was their own idea. The idea of somebody who worked at Lighthouse, and they were putting this whole thing together. Um, And it was beautiful animation. I mean, they showed me all the design work that had been done. So it wasn't the kind of style I work in at all, but you have to kind of adapt. So I did all the storyboarding for that, and it won an Irish Animation Award, which then made it eligible to be nominated for an Oscar, which it
Wow.
wasn't. But
Wow.
nevertheless, it was getting so much attention, and it was a wonderful little animation. So I think that's available to view on streaming, so I'll find a link for that and put that in the show notes. But it's called Pogmo Pigeon.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it, really. That
Yeah.
was post-lockdown for me.
Yeah, same here. It was a slow time, coming out of lockdown. We complicated matters by moving in January of 2021 and moving
Right.
house,
Yeah.
still in lockdown. So with all the complications of that, but yeah, a lot of when I was checking back, a lot of my early 2021 was still estate agents and solicitors and all the
Yeah.
usual stuff that goes with moving house.
And yeah, we moved. My mum moved in 2021 over to Chipping Norton from Bedford. Yeah, same kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
was December, and the weather was terrible, and the vans didn't turn up and stuff like that. And I got, like a 80-plus-year-old mother to bundle into a car and get her across. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were moving to here, this fairly rural location, and the delivery lorry that was bringing our stuff down, it brought one load down on the day we moved, and then brought the balance, the main lot,
Yeah.
a couple of days later. And in between here, it snowed, and the morning, and literally, I literally had to walk up the hill, the road that leads down to us, to make
Yeah.
sure a removals lorry could navigate down it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It never move in lockdown. Well, hopefully we'll never have to, but
Never move in lockdown. Never move in winter when you move to the
no,
country down a country lane.
no, winter is not good. Anyway, so I think that's about our time. Thank you everyone for tuning in, listening as always. Coming up will be our live from TF Nation episode, and as we were alluding to, we'll be chatting about the project we can't talk about yet, but we probably can.
Yeah, we will do that. And also for those of you who are not Prime members, so didn't get the little bit of chatter kind of before we press the button on on the main version. Yeah, we're currently working on the engine, our kind of reimagined project, the engine. So whenever I mention show notes and bits and pieces like that, they're always going to be in the show notes on Patreon. So if you go to wildfur.net, you can see all of that stuff. And if you want the extra content that comes as a Prime member, you can sign up there as well. So, and always send us your questions.
And you get the utter joy of actually seeing us make fools of ourselves.
As a video, yeah.
It's only one note to finish on. We must be coming up about 2 years of The Rest is Giant Robots, if we're not already. So, another small anniversary upcoming.
Well done, us.
Yeah, who knew we had so much to talk about?
We should have a party.
Yes, yeah, we'll have a virtual party.
We'll have a virtual party next time. You definitely want to sign up for the video version for that.
Yeah, we'll be slightly drunk. We'll have to record that one later in the day.
Yeah, get dressed up.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Great as always, Simon. And see you next time.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to The Rest is Giant Robots. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing for more and maybe share with like-minded friends. This has been a Wildfur production.